Everybody, this is DearMamaSal. Oh, wow, that's nice to see. There's a man there in a motorized wheelchair. Guess what he's doing at the rush hour time? He's picking up garbage with one of those long pokey sticks that has, you know, at the end. You know what it is, right? So, what a great thing for him to be doing. He may well be retired and in a wheelchair, but it doesn't stop him being a community member. I like that. Oh, forgot the weather report. It's 13 degrees, very cloudy. I got a feeling this cloud's going to burn off though. Which would make it 56 in northern Washington state. So I hope you all had a wonderful weekend. You're probably wondering why I'm talking about the weekend when we're already on Tuesday. Well, that is because we've had a long weekend here in Canada, and I think you have a long weekend. I think it's next weekend. So I've had a good weekend, as some of you will know, those of you who watch the vlogs regularly. We have been busy in the garden. It's our clean-up weekend, and it actually was a lot of fun to do. What I did, because I knew that I could not do as much as I used to, I took it on myself to cook for everybody for the whole weekend and to do what I could. I did a lot on Friday. And then a little bit on, actually I did a lot on Saturday, and then a little bit on Sunday and a little bit yesterday. And then we got quite a bit achieved. It's amazing how much junk comes off your garden when you go in for a spring clean. We've got it down to a fine art where we only have to do that sort of once a year. We've put in perennials and we've put in all sorts of other things that make it possible for us to really just do one major cleanup of the garden per year. And I don't know about you, but that works for me. Once is enough. I don't have a huge garden either. I have a fairly small garden, but it's amazing even so how much it takes. However, I was surprised to find out, as some of you know, I do my Fitness Pal, and one of the things that surprised me this weekend was 15 minutes of gardening equals 200 calories. Now that doesn't sound like very much, but I was out there, for example, for 4 hours. That's quite a bit. And in fact, it was more than that. 15 minutes, yeah. 15 minutes is 200. So you do 4 hours. That's a lot of calories. That's 1 day's worth of calories. So a lot to be said for get off your rump if you're capable. Get yourself out into the garden and do some gardening. It's good for the soul. We all know that. It's good thinking time. Gets you away from life in general and stress in general. And talk to the worms. I'm very sad to admit that I did actually annihilate a worm. Actually, he became a twin. But other than that, it really is a very peaceful thing to do, and good for stretching the back. I must have done it well because I actually didn't get into too much pain. I had a little bit of discomfort, but not a whole stack. I also really was careful to come back in from gardening and have a good hot shower and loosen up those muscles and let them blood flow through them. So that was good. Our topic for the day is a fascinating one, and we have to give a heads up here to Becca, who actually raised it. I try and ask over the broadcast, when I'm doing the broadcast, try and ask if there's anything that anybody would like me to talk about in the drive time stuff. And Becca said, is there any way you could talk about how to deal with people when you're talking about different religions? And obviously, you know, we've all had that problem, haven't we, where it gets very heated, or it gets sometimes quite nasty. And I thought it was a great topic, and I first of all want to ask whether any of you grew up, as I did, having very strict rules about what you were allowed to discuss in company. And in my household, which looked a lot like Downton Abbey, as some of you know, in where I grew up, I was not allowed to discuss politics, religion, or sex at the, and I say sex, I don't necessarily even just mean the act, I mean anything to do with it, at the meal times. Now, you also have to understand, we got called to meal times by a gong, you know, it wasn't your actual normal family, you know. So, but, you know, they were just taboo, you weren't allowed to discuss them. And I often wonder whether other families grew up that way as well. And maybe part of the reason that we're all, not all, but a lot of us are so ignorant of the other religions is because we weren't ever allowed to discuss them, or because it's so difficult to discuss them. Well, I decided to do an experiment and see whether my, what should we call it, my facilitating skills could cope with such a discussion. And if I could do it well enough, then hopefully Becca would see that it is possible to discuss it. You just have to facilitate it rather than argue it. So we had a room full, and I can't remember whether, I think we were in Tiny Chat actually, but I could be wrong. It was either Tiny Chat or Vorm, but we had a room full of people. I mean, it was more than 20 people, I think, when we started this conversation. Now, you would think that with that many people, this would be a very bitter discussion, and it wasn't. It was amazing. In the room, we had a Roman Catholic, a High Anglican, a Jehovah's Witness, a Satanist, a Baptist, and I think we had another religion. I don't believe we had a Muslim, unfortunately. Anyway, so it was a cross section of different religions. Now, the discussion that we had was interesting because it was a fascinating thing to listen to everybody talk about their stuff. For example, we all had questions of the Jehovah's Witness. because we knew this person very well, and we wanted to find out some factual stuff about their trading. And so, you know, you look at it and you go, boy, we were really able to ask questions of people that normally you wouldn't be able to ask because it would be too heated. And I had to give 10 out of 10 to all the viewers that day because they handled it so well. And even after 2 hours of this discussion, I think we did about an hour and a half, even after that length of time, I needed to leave the broadcast, but a lot of them continued and continued the discussion. So here is the point that I wanted to make. You know, it's really a pity that we don't get to discuss these things more as adults. I always think it's a great pity that we don't get to choose religion. What happens is it gets given to us in so many cases. You know, you are baptized before you have a chance to even decide whether you want to be a Christian or not. You know, before you can even talk, you get baptized. So this is like understandable, because those of faith, you know, want to make sure that you are going to go to heaven or whatever the doctrine is. But one of the really interesting discussions was, what if you weren't allowed to be indoctrinated in life? Now, it's an impossible situation, we know that, because we all get indoctrinated. But wouldn't it be interesting if you were told as a child, all right, we're not going to tell you what religion to pick, or even to be religious. If you're interested in it, investigate it, go visit all the different religions and decide which one you would like to be part of. I think that would be such an interesting experiment to do with a generation of people. And one wonders, you know, what exactly would happen to the doctrine throughout the world if we did that. I'm actually amazed how many times I have received emails, even in the short time that I've been doing what I'm doing, that I have received emails, for example, from women that have been forced into a faith and therefore forced into almost servitude. I think that's the word I would use, because of their faith, and they cannot escape it, because in their faith they are controlled by the males in their family. And whether that's a brother or a husband or an uncle, it doesn't really matter. They don't get free choice about very much at all. And so we've seen this a lot in the news recently, and it's very worrying to a lot of people. However, what I was going to say on this one is that we really need to do what we can to help people understand more, to educate more. And I guess that's the whole argument about why a lot of these countries don't want women educated, because if they're educated, they're going to find out they have a choice. And that causes a little bit of a problem. I also wanted to really, really congratulate everybody that was part of those conversations, because I think what struck me more than anything was how civil everybody was. It was an absolute delight to have that conversation. And good on you. I was most impressed. I certainly learned a lot. I was actually quite stunned at some of the things. I went, wow, really, I didn't know that. So a good discussion. And I wonder in your household whether you would ever dare have such a discussion. And here is what I would recommend if you decide to do it. Have ground rules. Have rules. The rules are you may not insult anybody, you may ask questions, and you may listen. And if necessary, have a talking stick, you know, a salt cellar or a coffee grinder or something, and pass it around the table so people can talk in turn as to what they feel and don't feel. And an interesting one to do. I did another makeup video this weekend. I decided to do some things that I really enjoy. And if you missed it, I'll put the link below here. But because I've got a couple of products, I'm getting to the stage now where I've got a few products and I'm going, well, I tested them and I'm still using them. Now, what does that tell you? That says that I like them. And I think that's a very important thing for me to keep updating you on. What have I seen, tried, and what am I still using and why? One of the interesting things that I noticed was the very fancy lip gloss type thing with the light and the mirror on it. I think it's called Color Your Smile. Other than the gimmicky stuff of it, it's actually, I really like the lip gloss. It's more like a lipstick lip gloss, you know what I mean? It's pretty opaque, it's not, it's pretty effective. And it doesn't just immediately wear off, which is great. However, when I went to research just how much this costs, I was stunned actually. If you buy it in the open market, it can cost anything from $24 to $45, and I'm going, wow, that's a lot of money for a lip gloss. I'm not sure if that's in my budget range, but again, nice to have. Wow. Amazing the things you see if you go there. There's a lady there, and it's you know, early in the morning, it's rush hour, and she's carrying, I would say, 8 bags of cans and pop cans and things like soda cans, whatever you call them. That's a lot of cans. And and I say other garbage, but you know what I mean, other recyclables. And when my heart went out to her, unfortunately I didn't have the time to stop and give her a lift somewhere. But one wonders what the backstory is. What is going on in her life that she would need to do that, and that she would try in one attempt to take that much stuff. You know what I mean? It's just like she's gonna have to stop every 100 yards and readjust all of that. Oh, not smart. Anyway, my heart goes out to her anyway, so yuck. Alright, so here we go. This is another week, and fun week hopefully for everybody. I really have been enjoying the input that you guys have been giving me. And so let's just wrap up on this subject, which is that the bottom line of any difficult discussion is make sure you know what your intent is. If your intent is to forward your private agenda, then conversation becomes very difficult. If you wish to listen to different people's viewpoints, then it becomes a conversation. So remember that half the battle is to be able to listen and to ask questions, and to not ask questions with the voice tone like, "We really believe that?" You know. So don't be aggressive in the way you ask questions. Be fascinating. That's interesting. Tell me more about that. All right. I have to say that in the conversation that we had, the person that surprised us all, I guess, was the Satanist, who was incredibly eloquent. He was rational, and he was really quite interesting to listen to. And, you know, it made you want to listen to his argument. And it wasn't an argument, it was just his point of view. And that perhaps was the whole lesson for everybody. We all listened to him deeply because he didn't argue. He merely gave his point of view, and it was very obvious from the way in which he gave his point of view that he had studied many, many religions. And so we really do have to say that we decided as a group that perhaps it wasn't that important which religion you followed. What was important was that you have faith, that you have hope in something bigger than yourself, that you live by a set of rules, whatever that is. And the way, it was really funny because we all said that there's so many different variations on a theme, all right, and the basic theme was much the same across the board. And my discussion was about the fact that what we really have is like, in Christianity alone, you know, that if you like, that Christianity was the big city, and all the offshoots of Christianity were all the suburbs around the big city. And because they're all got their own bylaws and all got their own this, that, and the others, but they all are part of the bigger picture. So, our goal this week is to be more inclusive. Our goal this week is to have a look at the subjects that were taboo in your family. Which subjects were you not allowed to discuss? And are you by any chance less educated in that subject because you weren't allowed to discuss it at home? And if so, what do you want to do about it? Do you want to do some research? And be more knowledgeable. It was a really interesting and fun weekend. I felt we accomplished a lot, both on the DearMamaSal side and on the personal side, so it was good. This is DearMamaSal saying, be inclusive this week. Include others. Listen to others, get different points of view, and you will learn a lot. By the way, if you do, and you do learn a lot, let us know what you learned so we can add to this. Bye for now.